going on, everybody? Yeah, I bet you're surprised to see us, but we're back. Buckeye Roast on a Friday, I guess still morning time. We got our special guest, Anna Nadari, showing back up after high demand because they always love you. They love every time you show up, so appreciate you coming in. Got my guy Ron in here. What's going on, fellas?
Nothing much, man. Glad to be back here. I feel like it's been a minute since we talked some Buckeye football. I mean, much needed break for your boy, but glad to be back. A ton has happened, man. I mean, we did record numbers on Monday when we were here to talk about Kyle McCord to the portal. So we're back at it with your guys' favorite special guest.
What's up, y'all? How's it going? Been a minute since we did that Michigan preview, eh?
Feels like a century ago.
Dude, we got a lot more stuff coming in now. I mean, it's the Wild West, and they opened the floodgates. So we'll get into it.
Yeah, man, we got a lot going on, a lot of stuff. But first of all, I appreciate y'all joining us. I guess y'all knew we were gonna be in here, so make sure you like that video. Get somebody else here who ain't in here, and make sure you check out the channel. We still got the our Wednesday national show going on with Mike and Cam, the Fans Edge. They were in here just a couple days ago, so if you missed that, check that out. Me and Ron was in here Monday with the livest show of all time, apparently, for the channel. So if you didn't miss that, we talked about all things portal. We'll be updating some of that today. So make sure you do that. We'll jump in with that first. But all right, man. So last time we talked, it was pre-Michigan. Now that has happened, and now we're moving into the offseason, we got the obviously bowl season game against Missouri. Where are you at with the program? Well, recap that game. So rewind me back to a couple Saturdays ago. What were you thinking about, I guess, 2:00 your time? 2:00 almost?
Yeah. So I was actually a varsity club. I ended up there. So Put out the bat signal, watched that with a few people, got there like 11:30. No idea how there were still spots at the bar open, but obviously, very pro hometown crowd. And it kind of played out the way that we thought it might, where it was, kind of a tight game back and forth. I honestly expected it to be the opposite in terms of how Strawn Moore and Ryan Day called that game. I thought Ryan would be the one to be aggressive and take a couple swings. That early 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 comes to mind. And then, it comes down to what every great Ohio State-Michigan game comes down to. It's execution, special teams, and, one team was the aggressor and got away with, some calls here and there. And the other team, when they got the calls, didn't quite answer the bell. And at the very end, it was exactly what we talked about in the preseason, just 4 months later, coming full circle. What was the biggest thing we were concerned about? It was, one, can the quarterback step in and make the plays that are needed to be made against the Penn State and Notre Dame and Michigan? We got an answer to that question. The answer is, yeah, he can do enough. The other question that we really had was, will the tackles hold up? And for a fraction of a second, that's the difference between, Marv probably running free and potentially even scoring a touchdown on that final play that turned into an interception. So, I mean, you're talking about a classic between two teams that were really even all the way through. Every metric suggested that they were close. The game played out like they were close. And, both were a little reluctant to let their quarterbacks fully let it rip until they had to. When it comes down to it, I think Michigan's edge guys made one more play than Ohio State's did. And I wouldn't really put that on Kyle necessarily. I wouldn't put that on Marv. I wouldn't put that on anybody. It's just edge rusher made a good play on a tackle that we were kind of suspect on all year.
So you brought up that you wouldn't put that on Kyle. Where do you sit now with the Kyle JJ debate and where Ryan Day falls as far as decision making on that evaluation there?
I mean, my personal opinion is that Michigan does not ask JJ McCarthy to do as much as we asked Kyle to do this year. But that being said, in those spots when you need a guy to be a guy, JJ has proven that he can be a guy. And that's not necessarily something that you can scout per se. It's not something that you can just sitting there saying, oh, this guy has it, this guy doesn't. But it's hard when you watch them on the same field and you see the throw that JJ made to his lone touchdown of the day. You look at that throw, and not that Kyle didn't make several really high level, throws that you'd love your quarterback to make. It's just there is something to be said for making that throw in that moment. And we watched Kyle do it against Notre Dame, but doing it against a Michigan or an Ohio State is a little bit different, a tier for me than doing it against a Notre Dame, even as hostile as South Bend is. We would be talking about him very differently if that ball doesn't get intercepted, that drive ends in a touchdown, and Ohio State wins that game. That's really how small these margins are between, former 5-star quarterbacks. One guy gets a bounce here and a bounce there, and another guy doesn't, and suddenly the narrative is one of them is infinitely better than the other. I think they're rather comparable. As they project to the next level, that's kind of more of a development thing and kind of where they fall. McCarthy kind of profiles as one of those Kyle Shanahan quarterbacks where, if the offense creates a lot for him, he can do a lot with it. Kyle profiles a little bit more as your prototypical gunslinger in the sense that, he's going to throw it whether he should or not. They're just different quarterbacks. And I think, when you look at them side by side, Michigan's offense certainly would prefer a quarterback like McCarthy that is much more of a distributor. And Ohio State this year, I think, needed someone that gave them the juice that Kyle did in certain moments. But overall, they're still neck and neck for me. I don't think there's much of separation established from one side or the other.
I hear you there. I got to get to a couple things in the chat. We got to give a shout out to Posh as our first person in the chat this morning. And our guy, MCU Drew. Why is Q looking dead inside? They said, smile, little lady. You don't smile enough.
Programs just took so much from me in the last month that it's really just broke me down. It's hard.
Suck the life out of you.
Oh, man.
Lose Michigan players out, no players in. We got this. Nah, man, I was up late. You know how that goes.
And you're also up earlier than everyone else on your day off.
You know how that goes. So.
It's like, hey, Q, I'm off on Friday. You want to do a show late at that time that I bitch about waking up every morning?
Yeah, it's like, you'll do a show at 11. And I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds good. Like, wait, that's not 11 for me.
No.
Oh, man, we got a super chat we got to get to. Our guy, Todd, always appreciate you. It's not letting me open it. Oh, here we go. See, it's been a minute. Everybody take a couple days off. I forget how this thing works.
Yeah.
OSU won games in spite of Kyle. His lack of consistency is the reason ND, Penn State, etc. were all close. So Chris Drew has a saying about this. He's like, celebrating Kyle's success in the second half is like cheering on an arsonist that helped people out of the fire. And it's like, these games were close because we were struggling early. We weren't able to put games away. We weren't able to put points on the board early in these games. And it feels like Kyle got a lot of credit for erasing his first quarter struggles with second quarter heroics, but it was actually first quarter struggles and second quarter competent quarterback play with some of the best weapons in the country. So I'm right there with Todd. I want to get your guys' thoughts on that. Do you feel like Kyle doesn't get enough credit for the things that he did in the second half, or do you feel like Kyle set himself up to have to do those things in the second half?
I mean, he has a fair point. I've talked about it pretty much since the second game of the season, where I was like, yeah, I don't know if I thought this offense was a walking 50 ball if Kyle didn't necessarily put us behind the 8 ball to start out. So I would say, yeah, that's a fair point. He did lack consistency. To honest credit, yeah, he most definitely was a lot more on his plate than JJ had. Like, he has to run offense. JJ got off by throwing to the tight ends for 100 yards and threw for 150. So definitely he had more on his plate than that. But yeah, he definitely made a lot of mistakes. The consistency was bad. It put us behind the 8 ball to make up for it in the second half. So I have no problems with that at all. Because I feel like competent quarterback play in some of these games, and it's not even close.
Yeah, I don't think Todd's wrong at all. The Notre Dame game specifically, there are a few that you want back there. Penn State, kind of the same. He mastered the art of, we've seen guys do this before. It's more of an NFL thing than it really is a college thing. This isn't really like a college quarterback thing. You see it with Mitchell Trubisky a lot. And I know that we watched him last night play for Pittsburgh. You saw it with Jameis from time to time, where he would dig himself a hole and then make 7 or 8 ridiculous throws in a row. And you sit there and you wonder, why don't you just do that all the time? Like if you're capable of doing this, why don't you do this every time we ask you to throw a pass? But yeah, I mean that's to be expected to a certain extent with a first-year quarterback. That's the only problem is you're in the program for 3 years. Those have to be out by mid-season. Like by the time you get late in the season of year one, if you're a true junior, if you've had that much time in a program, the consistency can't be what we're worried about. We can be worried about whether or not you can make every single throw, but we can't be worried about whether or not you make the same throw differently in the first quarter than the third. That's I mean, and I think Todd did a really solid job of kind of explaining what the frustrations were, because you saw in second halves especially, you're like, if we got that guy for 4 quarters, this team would be a lot better. And for whatever reason, and I don't know what it is about a scoreboard saying a 1 instead of a 2, but I don't know what it was with him. And he started slow notoriously over and over again, and the offense started slow. But I think part of that is does he trust his O-linemen? Did he trust his running backs to get into the right reads, or was he trying to play hero? At some point as a quarterback, what you want to do and what you're going to be tempted to do is take over a game. And it's kind of important to know when to do that and when not to do that. And I think he got caught a few times trying to take over games in the first quarter when he just didn't need to, and made a few needless mistakes that kind of killed a few drives that we'd probably like to have back.
Absolutely. I want to stick with the chat here. Our guy JJ. There's no way I can smile. This year sucked. A lot of drama. Such then my dad passed away in October. Then we lost to Michigan in November as the cherry on top. This year did suck. So I want to flip it to a positive and ask you guys what your favorite moment was from the season. I'm sorry for your loss, JJ. We appreciate you always pulling up in the chat. Big shout out to you always being here with us. I want to get your guys' best moment from this season. My favorite moment from the season was a point of contention with me and Q at the one point during the season. We got off of our live streams after the Notre Dame game. And if you remember those shows, we did 2 completely different shows. The show that Chris Drew and I gave was a celebration and a party on Bleacher Report. Q and Mike decided to get on the Voice of College Football with Mark Rogers and foreshadow what we saw coming the rest of the season and do a doom and gloom cast about the struggles of that offense, Kyle McCord and his deficiencies, and what they thought that meant for the outlook of this season. And we had 2 completely different shows, and I was like, man, everything you guys said was true. That's exactly why I'm celebrating right now, because I don't know how many more points we're going to have to celebrate this season. So we just had a kid from the 303 win us this game. We had Kyle McCord drive us down there. Like, we had a moment, and I don't know if we're going to get any more of them this season. So I'm going to celebrate now and enjoy that moment. And here we are at the end of the season having a sad recap as we're about to dive into the portal frenzy and everything that's going on with this program. Things seem to be not great. And we talked all season on this platform, like, don't be overly spoiled with this team, with this season. Enjoy these wins on Saturday, even if some of them aren't pretty, because who knows how this season is going to end. And that was kind of like my safe way of saying, like, this team's probably not winning a national championship. You better find a Saturday to be happy, because like it's going to be one long season of misery, because if we don't make the playoffs, you missed all of these decent moments during the regular season that, certain fan bases that don't have double-digit win seasons every year don't get to enjoy. So I want to find out from you guys, and this is a question for both of you and everyone in the chat, what was your favorite moment from this season? Because while it was disappointing and there were frustrating moments, this is still the team that we support and invest so much time and energy and emotion into. I know there has to be things that you took away from this season that you did enjoy.
Well, first of all, Jay, sorry for your loss, man. I know that's stuff to deal with. Hopefully you got people around you helping you through that, because this is a tough situation. As far as the season goes, I would have to say that the Travion Henderson streak at the end of the season That was sort of like the last one of my predictions. So it was like that last stone that Thanos got. So I was able to put it on my hand. I was like, bet, TreVeyon Henderson is finally showing up and is the guy I expected him to be, 3 years ago. So that kind of run he had was sort of my favorite in the season, man. Seeing that guy ball out, just seeing how truly talented he is and what we haven't been able to see consistently the last couple of years.
Yeah, mine's first of all, JJ, condolences. Went through something similar not horribly long ago. It's a really tough time. Obviously, you've got a Buckeye community here to support you for just about anything you need, and obviously, I hope we're giving you some relief in a tough time. Talking about something that you love too, just like we do. My favorite moment was Penn State. That game in its entirety, and the reason was it was the first time that we got to figure out. Again, we had the JJ McCarthy, Kyle narrative that we had where Ryan chose one over the other. Another one that, he was taking a lot of heat for was Drew Aller. That's an Ohio boy. That's Medina's quarterback. And there were people in the 3-3-0 that were not happy that we did not take him, that we didn't pursue him as aggressively as we could have. And so to have the moment where, everybody was worried about Jim Knowles' defense. And, there were really only 2 games before Michigan that we were going to learn anything about him. And that was Notre Dame and Penn State. And they just completely shut him down for 60 minutes. And that was the first time that I really thought, okay, like this defense is not just a pretty good Big Ten defense. This is a championship caliber defense that we can't waste. And unfortunately, things ended out the way that they did. But I mean, I don't think anybody has any questions about whether Jim Knowles' defense is as good as advertised. Obviously, there's some stuff that we'd want back at the end of that Michigan game. But, they all season long, especially when the offense didn't have their shit together, all season long, that defense came to play and bailed them out a really tough spot week after week after week after week. And, that's not something that we've been able to say about a defense that we've had since 2019. And so the moment that I realized, all right, I can fully invest myself in being a fan of this defense and, going to talk our shit was a great moment for me at the end of Penn State.
So I think that's a perfect transition right there to get into some of the offseason topics. The Buckeyes dodge a bullet with Jim Knowles not getting the head coaching job at Duke. Penn State's defensive coordinator Manny Diaz takes the head coach job for the Duke Blue Devils and leaves Penn State behind. Just want to get your guys' thoughts on there. How worried were you about Jim Knowles? I was a big fan of what Jim Knowles has been able to do with his defense over the past 2 seasons. Definitely seeing a level up that was needed. A lot of people were frustrated with the defense as far as how they performed towards the end of that Michigan game. I don't put as much on them as I do some of the offensive deficiencies. Last time the Buckeyes blew out Michigan, they allowed 24 points and still won 56-24. Ryan Day everybody's like, oh, Jim Knowles gets paid $2 million to stop the defense. I'm like, Ryan Day gets paid $8 million and got this job because he leads great offenses and can put up lots of points, and we haven't been able to do that. So, I mean, I'm here to save my criticism for Jim Knowles because I feel like he did what he was paid $2 million to do. I feel like the guy that was paid $8 million to put points on the board did not put enough points on the board. Just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on Jim Knowles and Manny Diaz, the situation there.
Those definitely happy to keep Jim Knowles. I thought his defense was outstanding this season for the most part, maybe except the linebacker play that lacked a little bit from the season before. But, I mean, they were really good. He's as advertised even going back to last season. The level of that defense had from what we had in 2022 was a night and day, man. So happy he's back. It's really tough to replace a defensive coordinator, and last time we did that, it didn't go so well. So I haven't had Jim Knowles. I think he's one of the best in the country. I'm interested to see him bringing back this talent. I think like the year 2023 was for the offense. The year 2024 is for the defense. We have a lot of young talent that's finally getting of age. So I'm interested to see what this defense looks like next year. Glad we didn't lose him. Glad to see what he does with the talent he has at linebacker now. I mean, a lot of guys about the door. I think Cody Simon is back. C.J. Hicks finally is his turn. Him, Gabe Powers. So I'm interested to see what he does with that, man. So definitely I'm happy to have Jim Knowles back.
Yeah, I mean, we talked in the preseason that, Jim Knowles' unit was going to be the one that either made or broke this team, and they carried him all season long. So getting him back, obviously a huge deal. Just, for tabs on Manny Diaz and what that means for Penn State. Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, by basically every advanced metric we have, we're 1, 2, 3 in the country in defense. And we're not just talking about total defense or points per game. We're talking about yards per play. We're talking about yards per attempt. These are 3 of the best defenses that we have in the country, and they're all in the same division. So just by default, the odds that they have someone that slots in there and leads a unit that's as good as the one that, Manny Diaz led this year is super unlikely. And so, in our sense, there is a little bit of addition by subtraction. I highly doubt that they get anybody that's going to lead a defense that's quite as good. So it increases our margin there a little bit, but obviously happy that Knowles is going to stay and that, we didn't lose him to Duke, because there were legitimate concerns. I mean, he's obviously well liked and respected across the country. And the fact that he's interviewing for jobs like that tells you that he's clearly done what he's been asked to do at Ohio State, which is basically bring our silver bullets back. And I mean, you look forward into, the bowl game and into next year, and that's the unit you feel most confident about, which if we had done this exactly 1 year ago, it would have been the exact opposite. So total 180 in just 365 days.
Yeah, a total 360. It's glad that we made that change. I wanted to ask you guys about, we talked about the Notre Dame game earlier, and it feels like the stars of that game that made such an impact, Kyle with a big throw on 3rd and 19, and then Chip Trayanum with the touchdown there at the end, both in the portal. Crazy to see the departures that we saw that have happened at Ohio State so far this year. Starting quarterback gone. Chip transfers in from Arizona State, hits the portal again. Joe Royer, just the list goes on and on. I actually have the full list here, and I'm just going to read it off for you. For those who have not seen it, Amari Abor, defensive end, Cam Martinez, safety, Vic Cutler, offensive lineman, Evan Pryor, running back, Ryan Turner, cornerback, kicker Parker Lewis, cornerback Jair Brown, safety Kai Stokes, quarterback Kyle McCord, offensive lineman Jacob James, linebacker Reed Carrico, wide receiver Julian Fleming, Chip Trayanum, Joe Royer. So a ton of names in the portal. I think they're up to 13 or 14. I want to get your guys' thoughts on the biggest departure from the team, the one that you guys are saddest to see go, I guess I should say.
Ooh. I'm going to give you it first. I got to think about which one was saddest.
Yeah, I mean, the one that leaps out to me, obviously, I've made my feelings for Julian Fleming as a leader known here before, but that's not the one, because I think the young guys are ready. It's Kai Stokes. I really wanted to see what he could bring. Obviously, super highly recruited. We were all super excited when he signed, but that's the one that gets me. I think Kyle was the biggest surprise because of the manner in which he entered the portal. You would think, starting quarterback, you'd want to see that through the bowl game. Like, that's really what shocked me about it. Not necessarily that he entered the portal period, but the timing of it was really shocking for me, because that is your leader, right? That's your guy. That's supposed to be the guy that, moves everyone forward. But I think the one that I'm most disappointed to see go is Kai Stokes.
I'm still 2 here because I never played by the rules. Both guys due to injury. I'm going to say Joe Royer. Obviously, Chris talked to Coach K-Dub, and he had told him Joe Royer was better than Jeremy Rucker. He had better upside. He was going to be a better tight end. He just never seemed to get healthy. I'm actually a little surprised he walked out the door. I mean, obviously, we know Jelani Thurman's coming up. Everybody wants to see him, but K-Stover leaves out, and that's a lot of reps on the table. So a little surprised by that one. And then Evan Pryor, who a little surprised by that one as well. Another guy who got injured right when he was hitting his mark, ready to be in 3-man rotation. And a lot of running backs are out the door. So maybe Trey's back. Oh, we'll see about that one. But another one I'm interested to see, like, oh, okay, there's something that's happening in this room, because I'm kind of surprised he left.
Q, forever the worst fucking teammate ever. Like, I'm sitting here, like, looking through these names, trying to come up with, like, who I'm going to say. And then Q says both of the ones that I have that I'm sitting here with thoughts prepared on. And it's like, it's never just enough for Q to just take the scope of the question and pick one, because it's like, I have 2. So if he just answers one, I still have one of mine left. No. Q's like, let me hit both of these so Ron has nothing to say. So
You were going to say
You
Amari
answered mine.
Aborn.
Joe
We don't
Royer
recruit
and
the
Evan
ends.
Pryor were the two.
We don't recruit the ends, so that's a layup.
The one that I did want to comment on that was kind of funny. We saw Amari Abor enter the transfer portal. And honestly, that was probably the least surprising portal entry I've ever seen. I text Zeke and I was like, who's going to fight with fans in the DMs now? Like,
we lost so much
campus with smoke for the entire fan base. Like, it was like a regular thing during the off season. You would see bro beefing with someone in the DMs on Instagram. Like, I was like, I'm shocked that I didn't know that he left already. Like, I wish him absolutely nothing but the best. But honestly, I think this is best for him because he never seemed happy here. Like, he hated our fans, like hated them. So I hope he finds a fan base, one, that appreciates him, and two, that he gets along with. So I hope that he's able to find the field and have a productive career and hopefully have a healthy relationship with his fan base, because I've never seen a player have so much smoke for the fans. But
you better wish him nothing but the best.
That's what I'm saying, bro. He's gonna be in my DMs.
Man, hey, that's what, dude. I don't know. We can afford to lose. That level of attitude is what we need on this team, man.
Do we need a Draymond cue?
Yeah, I know somebody was upset after the game. It was Amari Aborn because that man's ready to fight at practice. So let alone
that's what I'm saying. Whoever gets him is gonna definitely have the passion. Like, he's gonna bring the passion for you, I promise. So shout out to him and best of luck. I want to speculate on some portal destinations. Where best fit for Kyle McCord?
The one that's thrown out there, man. You've heard it. I've heard it. We've all heard it. It's Nebraska. Everybody's talking about it. It's obvious. You know, like when you're 130th in the FBS in passing yards per game, and the only people lower than you are Iowa and the service academies. Like, you have to do something. And when it doesn't even matter who he's replacing. He's significantly better than any option they would have. It's just a matter of, does he trust that O-line? Does he trust that offensive staff and Matt Rule? But yeah, that's the most obvious of the obvious for me.
Q, before you answer, we got some breaking news from a super chat. Our guy Mike Green. Breaking news: Kyle's daddy just took their ball and left open gym because Kyle didn't get picked up 1st and 5. So apparently, if you guys haven't heard, that is why Kyle entered the portal. There was a pickup game at the Woody. Kyle was not picked in the first team of runs, and that's why he left. So Q, with that insight, your thoughts?
I mean, I'd be mad too if they pick Jaden Ballard, because he's just going to be dancing, all around the court. So definitely we got to go above him. Nah, man. I would have thought Louisville may have been a good fit. Obviously, they had some success this season. Bring back veteran roster, run it back. I mean, Kyle's competent quarterback. So that one, I thought he'd be a good fit there. But if not Nebraska, Rutgers might be a good fit.
I hope our guy Big Hat Radio is listening, because I think the best fit for Kyle McCord would be the Miami Hurricanes. Why not? They need a veteran quarterback. Their biggest issue with Tyler Van Dyke was he turned the ball over too much. Outside of the Michigan game, Kyle's pretty risk averse. Doesn't really turn the ball over much. I think maybe Kyle could be Mario's quarterback of the future. Thoughts there?
He didn't turn up. It wasn't due to lack of effort. He tried to turn the ball over. People just didn't want it.
If he does transfer to Miami, man, how are you going to front anybody that's in their early 20s for leaving Columbus for South Beach? Like, you can't.
Right? And if you let Miami fans tell it to you, maybe we did have it right. Kyle McCord to Jeremiah Smith, but maybe it's just not in the uniforms we expected. Let them tell you.
I'd love to see it.
Oh, man.
So we've seen a lot of departures from this team. We have a big loaded class coming in, but we're up to 14 departures from the team, and we have not had draft declarations. I think Chop is the only one. I see Tommy Eichenberg is playing in the Senior Bowl. I think he's exhausted his eligibility regardless. So a lot of the seniors departing, still guys making NFL decisions. What do you think the biggest position of need is for the portal? And do you think the Buckeyes will be extremely active in the portal this cycle? Because it looks like they have a lot of roster spots to fill.
Yeah. I'll give you the first crack at this one. You go for it.
Yeah. I think it's the same that we had a year ago. Fix the damn tackles, man. Like, we need O linemen and we need depth there too, because however you feel about it, 300-pound men hitting each other on every play, that's going to create injuries no matter how you do it. It's very unlikely that you get unscathed all your starting five through a regular season. And so we need depth there, especially as we go to a 12-team playoff when it matters. Your depth is going to be tested in those 3 weeks, basically more than any other point in the season. And then the other one that sticks out is running back. I mean, you're talking about basically the entire room besides Trey departing, and we don't know if he's going to the NFL yet. So being linked to Trevor Etienne, which would be fun and different and kind of a style of back that we haven't had in a while. But I mean, there's clearly touches to be had there. So I would expect them to be pretty aggressive with a top tier transfer, and then potentially even adding someone else to this class. Just seeing the departures that happen, because this is going to happen every year now. If you're good enough to be recruited by Ohio State and good enough to earn a scholarship and get a roster spot, other teams are going to try and take you away if you don't get playing time that you thought you deserved, fair or unfair. That's just the world we live in. And welcome to college football free agency, because that's really what this is.
You mentioned the need at tackles. I wanted to touch on that. I just wanted to touch on that real quick. Just a few options to Buckeye fans to keep an eye out for. Indiana tackle Carter Smith has been rumored to be a person of interest for the Buckeyes. Chase Basantes, 5-star tackle, freshman SEC All-American at Texas A&M, also just entered the portal. He was heavily recruited by Rutgers, seemed like a Big Ten vibe type of guy. Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State all in the mix there for that one. So a couple names to keep an eye out for on the offensive line front there. Q, your thoughts?
Yeah, Texas A&M was able to get that one done, their recruiting pitch. So they were able to get him away, unfortunately for us. But what I'm looking at, and I don't necessarily know if it's a need, especially depending on what happens with the draft, but I would love to go out and get a veteran receiver who is a dog and bring him into this room. A lot of young talent, man. We've talked all season. I was like, man, Zone 6 ain't really Zone 6 anymore, man. It just they feel like they're leaving something to be desired. Go get me a Josh Kelly. Go get me someone who's going to catch the ball.
Stop it. Get the fuck out of here.
I don't need him to
get him off the show.
I need the attitude. That's what I need. I need the attitude in this room.
This is a pro South Florida Express program, okay? We are about to see the South Florida Express lineup. If Jeremiah Smith signs with the Ohio State Buckeyes, your wide receivers will be the national championship 7-on-7 team, the South Florida Express, 3-star receivers. You will have Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, and Brandon Ennis leading this team. Fuck portal wide receivers. I don't want to hear none of that shit again. We have the best room. You can tune into Iowa podcast. You can tune into Auburn podcast if you want to hear about our transfer wide receivers, because people leave our room because it's so competitive. People don't dare try to come here and compete in this room. I can't believe you even suggested wide receiver. Apologize.
As I was saying, I need a dog in this room to come in and shake this room up. Not they don't necessarily got to play, but go get me somebody who's going to talk trash, do all that. Like Zach said, a couple charges, man. That's what I need, man.
Are you doubting that the South Florida boys are going to be able to talk trash when they get on the field?
Brandon Ennis can talk some trash.
That's what I'm saying. Come on now.
He seems kind of chill. He's like
now,
a good
bro.
Dude. I don't know. Jeremiah Smith is way overly gifted, bro. He's too gifted, bro. He got 40 touchdowns. But he's talking trash.
That's an out-the-box NFL wide receiver, man, which is crazy. We haven't seen
touchdowns already.
I mean, that's the one. Like, of all of the guys that Heartline's ever brought here, that's the one that people are like, oh my god. Like, there's a factory of freaks that he's produced, but that one is just different from day one. I mean,
and this is if we lose Jeremiah Smith, this one will hurt the most out of any recruitment I think ever, just because I have such a high regard for Jeremiah as a player. I think he's such a high-end prospect. He's the number one player in the class for a reason. And there's a video of Marvin Harrison Jr. where they ask him to use the traits of like Ohio State wide receivers to build the best wide receiver he could possible. And he goes and takes traits from every wide receiver that we've seen during the Heartline era and makes a super wide receiver. Go watch it. He builds Jeremiah Smith. Like, that's exactly what he puts together. You look at the attributes that he puts together, it's like, oh, all of these great attributes that every single one of these wide receivers had that made them special, Jeremiah has all of them. So it will be painful to lose this one if the Buckeyes aren't able to hold on to him. National Signing Day here in early National Signing Day here in exactly 2 weeks. So something to keep an eye on there. The portal is hot and heavy right now. We've been linked with a million quarterback names. Actually, before we get into portal talk, we have more super chats we got to get to. Our guy, Mr. Black. Does XJ have an extra year? I feel he adds more than number 4 blocking. He can run third and fourth wide receiver, let 33 sling it all night. Love the show. Thanks, fellas. XJ is out of eligibility. That's why I felt it was really odd for him to come back last year. I think he had an opportunity to go be a wide receiver 1 at a lower level program, but loved the Buckeyes and stuck it out, exhausted all his eligibility with the Buckeyes. XJ will be graduating and moving on this year. But appreciate you, Mr. Black, for that super chat. And then our guy, Mike Green, again. It's payday, so another super chat, man. We appreciate you, but Kyle was 31% on dropbacks from 0 reads or bad passes. Dude is cooked. He's going to the MAC conference at best. I know it's payday, Mike, but it's about to be payday for Kyle McCord again at some big university, and a lot of boosters are about to pony up a bunch of money for 31%. As much as it pains you, I mean, if they need to get us on staff for some evaluation, because we'll find a better way for them to spend their millions upon millions of dollars. But bro, if Kyle McCord gave us a 1/10 of his super chat, 1/10 of his NIL deal to our super chats, we might be able to take a month-long vacation. I think Kyle's going to do quite fine. Your guys' thoughts there on Kyle destinations, and I think Kyle, I do think that we have a lot of jokes, the Honda McCords, he's cooked. A lot of fans excited to see him go to the portal, but Kyle was not a bad quarterback. I don't think Kyle was Ohio State standard quarterback. And it's the run, and I feel like it's almost the Zach Harrison effect that we're seeing with Kyle McCord. No one was ever going to be the 5-star that everyone expected following up Joey, Nick, Chase. At some point, it's not going to be better. Like, that run is going to have to come to an end at some point. And was Zach Harrison a bad player? No. He's performing. He's playing in the NFL. He's going to make more money than I ever will in my life. But he wasn't Chase Young, Joey Bosa, or Nick Bosa, and that's no fault to his own. At some point, you can't be Dwayne Haskins, Justin Fields, CJ Stroud. It's not going to always continue to get better. So while I do think that Kyle struggled and wasn't what Buckeye fans were used to in years, I think he's going to elevate the quarterback play wherever he ends up signing. Your guys' thoughts there?
Yeah,
Let's say Zach Harrison just texted me. He said he cannot believe you just compared Kyle McCord to him. Zach Harrison.
That's the difference, right? Like we were spoiled. Justin was a top 3 college football quarterback. Dwayne was a top 3 college football quarterback. CJ might have been a top 1 college football quarterback. And this is what it looks like when you have someone that's in that 15 to 20 range. And the receivers are every bit as good as they've ever been, maybe if not better. And you take a step back, or like even a half step back and O-line play. This is the difference. If you're Ryan Day and you want to run an offense that scores 40 to 50 points a game, you're going to have to upgrade quarterback just a little bit and upgrade the O-line just a little bit. It's not like we need wholesale changes. We don't need to scrap everything and start over. There are little marginal changes that you can make that make this go from an offense that looked rather clunky last year to one that seems a lot more functional and does a lot of the things that, our players do well. But acting like Kyle McCord is terrible. He's not. He's just not up to the standard that we had before, which is basically an impossible standard to live up to. Nobody, even Alabama, Georgia, LSU, these perennial programs, Texas that has all the money in the world, USC, even Lincoln Riley doesn't get a top 5 guy every single year. And that's basically what you're being compared to. And that's why people were so upset when we told them this year, hey, this isn't a guy that wore 7 or 1. It's a little bit different a cat. That doesn't mean he sucks. I don't think that means he can't be an NFL player one day. I don't think that means he can't have success elsewhere. It's just when you put everything together, it was going to be tough. It was going to be tough for him to ascend to the level where people were comfortable with him going into 2024 and beyond as the guy. And I think that's why Ryan made the statements he made about being relatively non-committal. But when you're at Ohio State, there should be, like we talked about earlier, there should be a competition every single day for every single spot out there. Go out and earn it every single day. And, if you're not comfortable with that, then transfer somewhere where you can be comfortable.
Hugh?
Yeah, appreciate the chat, Mike Green. Yeah, I think he's a little bit of maybe a level down from Ohio State, but I mean Ohio State's a top 3 program in the country, so that's a hard standard to meet and can play well. I don't know if Kyle was particularly good this season. I thought he was all right most of the time, but yeah, I may not go as far as the MAC, and battle that with DeQuan Finn. But I would just say, Kentucky, Louisville, Nebraska is a good fit for him. But he's talented. He just has yet to put it together. And sometimes guys will put it together in 3 years and put it together in 5 years. I'll allow Joe Burrow. So I'm not comparing him to Joe Burrow. Don't bring that over here. But I'm just saying it takes some time for some people to develop.
The one that I don't think anybody's talked about because they're about to have a quarterback vacancy that I think should be kind of discussed more, and I hope he at least gives it a shot, is UNC, because I mean they're developing NFL wide receivers. Drake May is about to leave there. You've got a really established head coach and an organization there that clearly it's not like the ACC is complete trash. Like you're not talking about going to the MAC, but I think that's a really solid program that I think would do some great things for him if he decided not to go to the Big Ten or the Kentucky Louisville route.
It's actually a good shout. I like that.
Yeah, definitely would be cool to see him go there. I wish, and I feel like a lot of people get this confused with our criticism of Kyle. Like, I wish Kyle nothing but the best wherever he goes, except for when he's playing Ohio State. If Kyle goes anywhere outside of the Big Ten, I will be rooting for Kyle. I will be following him and hoping that he finds his way to the NFL and continue. Yeah, not Joe Burrow levels. Chill out, Steve. I ain't rooting for him that much. I'd like to see him go do great, but I do not want to see Bro go win a natty in the SEC. You called my bluff there. I ain't rooting that hard. Our guy Mike again. I see Kyle take a deep breath pregame against Youngstown State.
It's cooked.
It's cooked, man. It's cooked.
Oh, that's good.
I had a chat here from our guy Ohio 1986 earlier in the show. I wanted to ask you guys about, y'all think Jim Harbaugh will sign the contract extension with those stipulations in it? For those not familiar, there are stipulations in the $11 million contract extension offered to Jim Harbaugh that he will not pursue an NFL job vacancy this offseason. And I think that might be the holdup. Q thought about Jim Harbaugh coaching Justin Fields and almost quit the program. So little glitch there. But what are your guys' thoughts on the Harbaugh extension situation?
I don't know, man. Michigan's kind of giving him everything he can ask for after he started winning. So I don't mind that with him not chasing NFL jobs every season. I'm like, damn, dude, you want to be here. I mean, the team looks like he wants to be there because they come out and have won the last couple of seasons. But most definitely, it's time where you're like, you either riding this train, even though I think this train is about to end pretty soon here, or you're not. So I have no problem with it.
I mean, if you're him, right? Like if you're looking at this objectively, why wouldn't you leave before sanctions are levied at any, serious position to you or your team? Because one way or the other, the NCAA is going to do something. Now, how serious will that be? What is that going to look like? None of us know. But when you're being offered NFL money to go coach grown men, like you did what you were supposed to do at Michigan. They hired him to bring their program back, to get close to Ohio State, to eventually beat Ohio State, and then, to compete for national titles. And I would argue that as the number one team for the first time since, 98? Like Michigan is number one for the first time since 1998. And, he did his job. Now, can they finish the job? That's a different question. And I think that, the answer that you get a month from now after that game may be very different than the answer that we give you now. But if he's there, then he should be there and be committed to being there and not, pursuing jobs every other offseason, because it's not like Michigan is not a great job. That's a fantastic college football job. It's one of the 10 best jobs that we have, and they're going to pay you tens of millions of dollars to be there as a guy that was their quarterback, that's their head coach. I would feel some type of way about it if I was a Michigan fan that he keeps trying to, flirt with the NFL year after year after year. Because you're our guy. That you were our quarterback. You came back here to do exactly what you're doing now, and you're going to leave us, right as we're getting to the best part of what it is that you've built, and a team that can kind of sustain itself. Like, yeah, I would feel some type of way if I was a Michigan fan about him hesitating to sign that, because I mean, NFL teams are calling, man. I mean, like I'm staring out at Chicago right now, and I can tell you every bar conversation I have with somebody is Jim Harbaugh going to be the coach of the Bears? I'm like, oh Jesus, give me a call in a month, and I might have a better idea for you. I think right now he's focused on trying to win a natty.
This Jim Harbaugh in the Michigan situation feels like the girl that you've been dating off of Tinder for 6 months and she still has Tinder. It's like, what are we doing here? I think it's time to delete the app. It's like he just won't let it go.
Yep. Yeah.
But man, it's almost noon here. I know our guy Chris is about to go live, so we are about to wrap it up here. Always great to be back. I think this is a comfortable format. Q, maybe 2 days a week is what we will roll with. I'm going to still play out of Q's playbook. If you say it on a live show, you have to do it. So me and Q are going to do some Christmas movie reviews, minor league film reviews here on the Best Damn Media channel here in the next couple days before Christmas. So keep an eye out for that. Me and Chris Drew are going to potentially debut a new format of the college football pregame show. It's going to be something centered around college football, but a little bit of different format that we are going to switch it up here on Saturday morning. So be sure to tune in for that tomorrow at 10 a.m. here on the channel. Fellas, let the people know where they can find you.
Adi, go first.
Yeah, at Nanduri NFL on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. I think people are starting to migrate to Threads. So I guess if Elon keeps fucking this shit up, we might have to go over there at some point.
I didn't delete my profile there yet either, so look for me over there.
Yeah, I was just saying.
Maybe we'll Ron.
Yeah. And then I co-host a show that's on and off with Matt Kelly on Player Profiler called Decision Point, where we talk about what the actual job of an NFL GM is. So if you feel so inclined, give us a shout over there.
Most definitely. Y'all see me every day, so I'm sure I'm not hard to find by now. But also, I talked to Chris. I started writing the show yesterday for State of the Program. I'm going to see if he has availability for Sunday, possibly. If not Sunday, it'll be very early next week. So did not forget that it's coming soon, because we got a lot to talk about. But if you want to find me, I'm Flida Johnson on Instagram, City with Quentin on Twitter. Not hard to find on the timeline, so give me a shout. I'll be here a couple times a week. Because if you say it on the show, you gotta do it.
Yeah, I am hard to find. The new Warzone came out. I haven't been on the timeline at all. Cam had to do a wellness check yesterday and call me. He's like, bro, I hadn't seen you read a message in a group chat in 48 hours. Like, are you good? I'm like, yeah, I'm on the game. So for all you people, all you Michigan haters that say Ron is hiding, yeah, I am hiding. So if you want to find me, you're going to have to throw your insults at me on the proximity chat in Urzikstan if you want to get your trolls off. That's where you're going to find me on the game. But yeah, we're going to try to keep this format of the Buckeye Roast 2 days a week. Try to maybe bring you guys a guest once a week. Everybody loves when Anand's on with us, so we're going to definitely have to do that more in the off season. Hopefully get our guy Terry T from College Football Stop here on in the next few weeks. So yeah, bring you guys some guests. Pop in a couple times a week, and then we're going to bring you some different types of content, movie content, gaming content, music, culture, all that good stuff. So Best Damn Media will have a presence all off season. Of course, our national college football show every Wednesday with Mike, Cam, and Disney, the Fans Edge. So make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, and you're tuned in here at the Best Damn Media YouTube channel. We appreciate you tuning in this morning for the Buckeye Roast. Go Bucks and OH.
Yo.
I hope.
My hometown, late in Maureen, the